everybody. Welcome back to SDCC at Home and our Stargate channel. Today I've got two amazing guests that you guys are going to enjoy so much. I want each of you to please introduce yourselves. Mike Disa, Christopher Judge. Hit it. Mike, why don't you go first?
Oh, hi. I'm Chris Judge's guest to this panel today. I'll be his plus one. My name is Mike Disa. I'm a director and a writer and producer. Some of you might have seen the work that Chris and I did together on the animated adaptations of two really great video games, Dante's Inferno and Dead Space. And so I work in animation mostly, and I try to work in sci-fi animation as much as possible. And I'm working with Chris on a new project now.
Yes. And I am Chris Judge, and I'm that guy.
So many guys. Not just the Indeed guy. We've got the son. Yeah, boy. That guy. Well, obviously why I wanted to bring you guys on is that there are so many Stargate fans that are still alive. It is, as these guys have heard me talk about all weekend, the franchise that keeps on giving, the gift that keeps on giving. And the fans are really excited to see what else you guys are doing, what else you're working on. And in this case, I know both of you are sci-fi fans. And so I would love for you all to talk a little bit about how you came to sci-fi, why you're fans of it, what some of your favorite sci-fi shows are, or where you really found your love to grow with sci-fi, because they always love to hear that background.
Mike, you want
me to go first?
Sure.
Why don't you go first?
All right. And I'm going to be real, and if you don't like it, we can back it up and record over it. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, right outside of Marquette Park, which, as many of you might probably know, is the murder capital of the world now, and wasn't swell when I was there. And I had what you would call a violent childhood. I mean, you don't want that. You never enjoy it, but that's just the truth. What science fiction was for me was an accessible intellectual escape into worlds that were not only better, but smarter. Heinlein, Asimov, all the great old radio shows and the original Star Trek were just my absolute salvation. I mean, to live where I lived and deal with the things I dealt with every day, and then to sit down and read about people who are heroes because they were smart, because they had ethics, because they did good instead of just being tougher.
Right.
Especially the Heinlein heroes. I love them.
Right.
As a matter of fact, when Doctor Who was being played on PBS when I was a kid, it was on 4:00 in the afternoon, and I would run home in my football uniform to watch it and then run back to practice every day.
Oh, that's some dedication. I love that.
That's how much I love science fiction. It's literally saved my life. And as I grew older, I got intensely more into it. Space 1999, Red Dwarf, the greatest comedy series ever written.
Yep.
And Doctor Who. And I raised my children on it. So it's always meant the world to me. It's literally, in a lot of ways, I mean, I've been very lucky and a lot of things have saved me, but the thing that gave me hope during the darkest of times was escaping into these better worlds. And eventually you can start to think, well, if these guys can be smart, maybe I can try.
Well, and they rise above many conflicts. I mean, that is something that is a pretty consistent theme in sci-fi to your own life, is rising beyond whatever it was that surrounded them.
Well, also, it was wonderful to read, stories about, women who were heroes because they were smart, and children who were heroes because they were smart, and all these things. And it all came down to, you're smart. Yeah. You've put effort in, you've learned things, and now you apply them to solve problems. That was, nobody in my life thought like that. It was like, me big, me hurt you, me win. And so it was great. It encouraged me to go to college. And, I got into art. And being an animation producer when I saw Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings and Wizards, which a little science fiction and a little fantasy put together.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, it's been my guiding, it's been my salvation.
I love it. I think that's perfect. And I think that that's really true across the board for so many of our fans that are not just Stargate fans, but Star Trek fans, sci-fi fans in general. Can't tell you, and I'm sure, Chris, you could say the same thing, how many times I hear that type of story from somebody that says, sci-fi saved my life.
Absolutely.
And and it's not to be flipped. It's literally where they feel and how they, and Chris, I know that you've heard that a lot from the fans, and I'm not sure, because you and I have done a lot of interviews together, I'm not sure they know why you're a fan of it, not just because you're an actor, but just some of your feelings about how it connects to humanity in general.
Well, for me, Star Trek was kind of the first, it was the first time I for, you know, whatever the run times were back then, the only time of the day where I didn't feel like a weirdo. It was the first time where I ever felt like I belong somewhere, and not just because of Uhura, but also Sulu and Spock. Those are the characters that I identified with, and it was my first kind of sense of belonging somewhere, because I grew up in a all white neighborhood. So not only was I in the beginning, the only black kid, I was also the only kid that had mixed parentage. And so I didn't fit in a number of ways. So it literally was the only place where I felt like I belonged when I was a kid. And that was the genesis of my love of sci-fi, and it's only grown exponentially from there, you know. So I'll try and watch any sci-fi series that is on, because of the overriding themes of science fiction and the community of science fiction. Generally, sci-fi fantasy communities are the smartest communities that you'll find on this thing here,
without a doubt. No, I mean, I've made cartoons and movies for 20 years, and you have a certain amount of feedback, and you deal with, you know, the fans or the people who consumed your sci-fi fans are like sometimes smarter than your average animation fan. I mean, you know, questions.
I mean, they're smarter than I am all the time. I just bow to it.
I'm sure there's studies being done that more MIT professors and NASA scientists, you know, are into sci-fi than
it has to be.
Yeah, than the NFL.
The number of astrophysicists that are fans that I meet on a regular basis. Well, and I think that some of that then translates so much in how you interact with the fans, Chris, from a Stargate standpoint. And I'd love for both of you to talk about not what it was like being Teal'c, because we have a ton of interviews of that.
Oh, good, because I probably wouldn't have much to say about
I don't think so. But what I do want that we just
Mike, you've never cosplayed as Teal'c? I'm a little hurt.
Depends on how you define cosplay.
Okay, you know,
I never left the house.
We don't want to see it. We don't want to go down that road. No. I don't want to have to go back and take the video down. The Stargate fans and the Stargate fandom we've talked about a lot, but how do you feel Stargate fits into that sci-fi fandom in general, and how does it hold up after all these years? I'd love for you both to talk about that a little bit, because that's not something they always get to hear you guys talk about. Mainly it's to, you know, why you liked it or who the character was, but how it held up and how it fits into the spectrum of sci-fi franchise shows that are held up for you.
Mike, you want to start? You want me to start?
I'll start if you want me to, and then you can fix it.
Well,
I'll say all the terrible. Well, I mean, as a fan, and I know I'm not the only person who holds this opinion, but it's just an opinion. And remember, when I say as a fan, I mean I am an obsessive fan of sci-fi. I have consumed every single science fiction show ever created on television ever. Yeah. You know, including Battlefield Earth and the tripod.
Oh, that's some dedication right there.
Yeah, and you know, and I could go on. I will match my bravado against anyone.
Sequest, come on.
Sequest, I saw it a million times. I watched it many times. I'm a first season fan. You know, the reboot was fine. I liked the first season, but I was going on and on and on and on. I love it. But the thing about Stargate, is that Stargate for me was the beginning of the renaissance of American science fiction, because on television and even in publishing, and now guys, I understand there's a lot of good stuff done. I'm speaking in very broad terms as a filmmaker.
Don't let me get a bunch of mail, because seriously.
But it had really started to drift away. It really had. I mean, towards the mid 80s and stuff, as Doctor Who was canceled and Sci-Fi became much more low budget, and then a little less, let's say it's a little bit less about science fiction and a little more about other things. Yeah. It really became difficult to get excited about. Yeah, I love Sequest, but okay, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It wasn't exactly the inspiring space opera, Brave New Worlds kind of feeling to these things. It was usually aliens coming to Earth and wanting to, make everybody take their clothes off. So I liked that for a while. And it was during some of the best movies of science fiction being made, but television seemed to be kind of, it's not where the energy was.
Right.
But Stargate changed that. Stargate is the definition of good science fiction as defined by Heinlein in one of his books. It says the point of science fiction is to take the human experience, add one large change that science could inflict upon humanity, and let the story grow from there.
Exactly.
So the idea of interstellar travel being dropped onto, realistic modern America,
right?
And it was incredibly smart,
and that any man could walk through. See, that's, I think, one of the things that isn't highlighted as much, and that speaks to what you're talking about, is that when it was a spaceship or you're an astronaut and you have to go through all this training, you still have to go through training. But in Stargate, you could be Daniel, you could be the everyman, the villager who walks through the Stargate, and fans have a tendency to adapt and identify with that.
And the people went through, made mistakes. They were fumbling. They were fumbling around. So much of the heart of that show, which I love so much, was the fact that we're out here and we probably shouldn't be, but have to be. Yeah. And that's kind of the state of humanity. We do things when we have to.
Right.
And it was just, I'm sorry, well written. Every episode had excitement and characters and one complication after another, and it was just fun to watch. My kids got me into it. About the third. Oh,
seriously?
season,
I didn't know that. I thought you got them into it.
No, not Stargate, because I like I said, I pretty much drifted away, and I was making science fiction movies, and I was making science fiction animation.
Right.
I wasn't watching it as much. And the kids were like, "You will love this. This is your thing, Dad. You will love it." And, and they were streaming it. They were like binge watching it, because the streamers had just started.
Right.
And they pulled me in and set me down. And I think right before Chris and I met, I had, in a matter of a few months, eaten like 8 seasons of that.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
It was really well done, and I really just envied everybody who got to work on it. I was probably tolling away on something that was making my heart hurt, and I would and it had spectacular production values and good acting and everything you want. It just seemed everybody on the set, at least it seemed from my point of view, and Chris, you can talk about this, just took it seriously.
Yeah, truly.
Well, and Chris, for you, what do you think? Because as the actor and as a young actor getting on that show, it probably wasn't something that you were thinking of the broader sci-fi world when you first got on it. But certainly from this perspective now, and as a writer and partnering with Mike on the things that you all are now producing, and prolifically, both of you, looking back on it, how do you think it fits into that pantheon of sci-fi? Well,
first of all, I now understand what a tremendous undertaking it was. If you tried to sell that pilot now, they literally, the feedback would be, let me know when you can do it under 20 million. Keep cutting until you think the budget will be under $20 million. So the production value of it, I remember the first time that we were on set, they were building some of the Abydos stuff still, and the size of the size of those sets, you don't ever see those in TV anymore.
No.
And you rarely see them in movies anymore. So just for that to be I guess it was February of 97, I think is when we started. Mm-hmm. The scope of it wasn't lost on us, you know, and why it's still endearing. First of all, I've always been very honest. We came along at the right time.
Yeah.
Like Mike says, I mean, there was a vast nothingness when it came to sci-fi for all intents and purposes on television.
Right.
And then you touched on the other thing is that almost anyone could be any of those characters because home base was Earth. Yeah. And so I think the vast majority of people could find a character that they identified with, mm-hmm. you know.
Well, and for you being African American, mm-hmm. that was something in the 90s that was not taken for granted, and not that it is now either for that matter, but mm-hmm. to be a person of color in a sci-fi show, which again, let's be honest, sci-fi does a pretty good job across the board in some of the biggest franchises mm-hmm. of talking about and hopefully inspiring the feeling of all humanity is equal. But
well, that's the one thing that I've always had a bone of contention about.
Okay, and that's what I wanted to ask you about.
Because the black character is generally the alien.
Oh yeah, exactly. So as in alien to what the norm is.
Yes. Yeah. But also, if you kind of look at it, it could be very much a parallel to what the black experience has been. At least in America, mm-hmm. we were the aliens, and we were, you know, and so it's a constant fight for dignity and to be heard. So maybe that's another thing that sci-fi, the allegory of that, is maybe something sci-fi gets right on.
Yeah, and I think that's true. I mean, that's from my perception as the white person looking at it. It strikes me in this particular time that we're in, it strikes me as that. And I think for you, looking back at the career in Stargate, how do you think it fits as a sci-fi fan with Star Trek, with some of these other franchises that were your default, your go-to? Mm-hmm. How do you feel about Stargate in that pantheon, and maybe like you were just talking about how it talks about humanity and African Americans and minorities and where the place, quote unquote, the place is?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it is definitely with that, you know, and it was hard for me because I never watched them for a long time.
Right.
So it took my youngest came across it and is that you? Mm-hmm. Because
Chloe's the one who reads.
Chloe's the one?
Yeah.
Oh, no way. I thought Kim or Chris were the ones.
Well, no, they grew up with it.
But they didn't say, "Hey, I've discovered it," type thing.
Oh no, they watched all the time. That's then right. when they moved back down to LA, it was something that unfortunately was forced upon them. Was your dad's Teal'c, you know? Which actually the school they went to, I'm not sure if that helped them because other kids were saying, "My dad's Joe Montana. My dad's Wayne Gretzky. My dad's Will Smith." So I'm not sure if they actually broadcast that I was their father.
It is the sci-fi audience. Guys, the people he just named are other sci-fi shows.
Except for Will Smith, right? That right. Certainly he's recognizable in the sci-fi world.
But, you know, when I actually started watching the episodes with Ken, I was like, wow, this really holds up. I mean, it really holds up.
No, it still does. It's been 20 years, and those shows look good.
Yeah.
They're well written. They're smart. They're a lot better than a lot of the other stuff with a lot of lens flares that's being thrown out today, you know?
Oh, my God.
I'm not complaining. I love all sci-fi, but I'm saying Stargate is an exceptionally good thing, and we ought to, acknowledge that. I mean, there's Stargate fans, you know, are fans of quality. I mean, it's a very good show.
And they're quality fans.
Yeah. Nice.
No, truly.
Nice.
I mean,
Yeah.
meeting the fans just all over the world. I've yet to meet one that was just an asshole.
Yeah.
You know,
I know.
You expect it to happen at some point,
Right.
but
Right.
it sure hasn't happened yet.
Well, and I think that's again, it's testament to the franchise, everything that you all were just talking about why it works for you as sci-fi fans and the production quality. And then the fans themselves, they keep this going because they love it for all the reasons we talked about. And the ones that they themselves bring up, which is that it feels approachable. It feels like a family. It feels like a team they could be a part of. And to that end, what's really cool is that there's this new D&D game that's coming out. And it was the only reason it exists is because the fans asked for a game and asked for this type of game.
That's awesome.
And it's an amazing company, which everybody's seen throughout the weekend. We've had conversations with the owners. That people don't realize, of course, is that, you know, we've got fans who are huge gamers as well, tabletop gamers, as well as fans of Stargate. And the beauty is that Wyvern Gaming, who's creating this game, has been able to merge that. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you guys about is talking about gaming and how this can actually extend the story, be supplemental to the story. Mike, obviously, you've got kids that are into gaming, and Chris G, you know, you've been involved in some video game or something, I think, that would help you give some insight into how it connects to fans. I don't know. It might be something you could connect.
I might have a little insight.
A little bit of insight. But how do you all think that this could grow the story and the franchise in and of itself? Because I know it's something that we're excited about. But I'd love to hear from you guys about your insights about gaming, tabletop gaming, D&D gaming, how that is able to extend these franchises and tell another story.
Well, the great thing about this game is that it picks up in season 6. So the Goa'uld are still the nemesis, and the pantheon of Goa'uld is limitless.
Yeah.
So I think it's just brilliant that they chose that as the jump off point, because that really just opens the vault to being able to tell whatever stories they want to tell, and tell them fresh with obviously some of the characters you know and love, but then fresh new characters also.
Yeah, it's true. And get those fans involved, right?
And get the fans involved. That's right.
And Mike, right. I hear that your kids are D&D gamers as well as Stargate fans.
Not just not just my kids, my wife as well. During this lockdown,
very cool.
During this lockdown, 2 nights a week, they pull it all out, and they have epic D&D marathon games that go on for hours, and it's really been wonderful to watch them go. And you know, every year for Christmas, I buy them, you know, cowls and capes and swords.
Oh,
and stuff. They get dressed up. But the thing about it is, watching it from the outside, is how incredibly smart tabletop Dungeons and Dragons really is.
Oh yeah.
I mean, talk about, if the point of science fiction was to inspire the human imagination to reach beyond that which they've already seen and to try to imagine the future, then D&D is its equivalent in fantasy, because it is so smart. You create the game and the experience interactively together.
Yeah.
And the idea of combining that with science fiction into something with Stargate, not only is my family going to go, absolutely, because I'm never going to get them away from that table. But it's the best of both worlds. It's, you know, unlike, you know, games, which I've worked on myself too, video games, this is a completely self-derived, self-imagined experience. And it literally is, anything can happen as long as you're all the team decide you want it to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I've noticed, especially in my family, whereas, you know, playing a video game for hours might isolate somebody, playing tabletop D&D brings people together. I mean, you form communities and lifelong friendships playing these things with people. And I know
that's
people
a great point. That is a great point, because it ties so much into the Stargate community as it is.
Right. That's right.
It's such a healthy, wonderful way to spend your time. I can't imagine a better use of downtime than D&D Stargate having a wonderfully smart, wonderful, inventive baby.
It ties. I don't think I can say it better than that. One thing I do want to talk, thank you guys so much for being here with us. One thing I do want to make sure to talk with you a little bit about here before we sign off is I know that both of you are working together as partners. You're working on a lot of good projects, big projects. Is there one that you can tell us about that I think you've got a podcast out about? I know the fans would love to hear about what this is.
Start this one.
Yeah. So, we were talking about big space operas that we have both been fans of. And this lovely man, Mike Disa, wrote this opus that I was fortunate enough to be a part of after much pleading.
Oh, stop that. I actually practically had to. I forced him. It was. I had to turn to a chair. No,
that is not true. But truly, we both spoke of our love of these big adventures, and Sentinels is definitely that. But it also encompasses everything that we've talked about. These ragtag group of, and not even ragtag, but these group of very different people who are caught in this extraordinary circumstance, and what they make of it. And you talk about just feeling a part of something. I mean, it's kind of what we're all going through on this big ship called Earth right now, and it is. I told Mike when I first read it, I said, we're doing this. This is the greatest thing I've ever read.
I love it. And Mike, you've got it out there as a podcast right now with some amazing stars that have agreed to be part of this that you guys did during COVID, right?
Right. We did it right in the middle of COVID. What happened is that Chris and I had put together a TV series, pilot movie, development package, everything you do before you take something out. And I was finishing up a movie in the Bahamas, and Chris was finishing up God of War. And we were like, oh, well, we'll take it out at the end of February.
Right.
And pitch it around. And well, there was no end of February. So, just to keep the creative juices going and stuff, one day Chris and I were on the phone together, and we decided, let's do it as a podcast.
Yeah.
And, Chris started calling people.
Okay, that's not true. Mike called me and said, hey, we should do this as a podcast. And I said, what's a podcast?
Yeah. By the end of the conversation, he was totally on board. I
got to be honest, Mike. The fans that are watching this right now are probably going to buy that second story as more likely.
Well, by the end of the conversation, we were basically on the phone. Let's be real. We were on the phone being miserable about being locked in our houses. Yeah. And the fact that oh my God, when this is over, we're going to have to do projects we don't want to do and all this other stuff. And so, what happened was, it was like, we ended up talking and agreeing to do it. But, Chris started calling people, and Elena Huffman from Stargate Universe is the other co-lead on the series with Chris. And we got Peter Woodward to jump in and, play a co-lead. And then suddenly we got Chris's son, Chris Judge Jr. to play one of the big characters, and Charlie Woodward to play the characters. And
and for you God of War fans, Danielle Basutti, graces her. She's great. And for Stargate and God of War fans, Adam Harrington, who you first met in the pilot of Stargate. In fact, that's how long I've known Adam. His line was, "This one's passionate." That was his first line. And he has become.
Remember that. That's great.
He has become this tour de force actor and character builder, and still a wonderful human being.
Oh my God! Adam and Danielle played these two parts of the crew, two characters in the crew, who are very, very different kinds of aliens. I'll give you the nuts and bolts of it later. They both brought it to this. We had this Zoom record where it was, there were like 18, 20 of us on this Zoom record trying to record this thing. An amazing cast of friends and people who we brought in forever. They're on the website, and we'll name them all at the end if you want us to. Yeah. But everybody came in, and they got on the Zoom, and it was like, wow, Danielle and Adam came to play. It was just amazing. I mean, they just boom, boom.
You know, that's what I had known from being with them for 5 years on God of War, because they actually play two of the more difficult characters to really wrap your head around. And holy crap, did they knock it out of the park.
Danielle spent hours on the phone with me before we did it.
Oh.
You know, finding out everything about the character, the history, where we were going with it.
Oh.
She plays a caster who is part of a coven on Ganymede. She knows the entire history up and down of the entire...
Oh, that's so cool.
She was just amazing, and everybody was fantastic.
And that's what you want to hear. You want people to be enthusiastic about the things that they're part of, that they're going through. And actually, Mike, can you take us through just a synopsis too, so people know? And then at the end, we'll drive people over to the podcast. It's on Apple's, iTunes, of course, but where they can get it.
I will absolutely do that, and we'll ask the fans a favor at the end too. So, here we go, guys. It's 400 years from now, this takes place. What has happened between now and then, and remember, we wrote this 4 years ago, before any of the stuff going on right now has been happening. Keep that in mind. So what happens is, as world governments fail to lead and abandon their moral authority over the people they govern.
Say what?
What could we possibly?
As pandemics and famine stretch across the earth.
Shut your mouth.
Are we like crazy 8 balls here, guys? Come on.
Oh, it gets worse. Governments fail and corporations take over, and they privatize essentially the government. But the earth has now been so ecologically damaged, they can no longer support its population. So that'll happen, next Thursday? And and what they have to do is they desperately have to mine the solar system. They need the resources. So Elon Musk and those types try to send people to Mars, and the colonies fail. The conditions out there are too hard. You need gravity. The human body can't take that much radiation. We're built to live on Earth. That's what we're built for. So what happens is the corporations grab desperate, unemployed people who are forced to do anything to work, and they bring them into their Gen N programs where they they don't forcibly, they sign contracts saying they could do it, but they re-engineer their DNA with animals, insects, anything they can think of. They're desperately experimenting to do anything that might be able to come up with a human being who could survive out there. And after a lot of bad things happen, they finally get a better breed of human beings, a breed of human beings who is stronger, who can take constant G's, who can deal with the lack of atmosphere. They can process oxygen better. They can handle radiation. But they come up with dozens of these different forms of these people, and they send them out to different places. And what they do is they manage to survive. They colonize, all the worlds, all the moons, all the asteroids. They mine water from comets. They actually save Earth by going out there and living out there as employees of corporations that own their genes. What we've done 400 years from now is we've created a new class of servants, a new second class of human beings who are basically owned by the corporation, ones who made the solar system livable. And once they'd done that, then the poor of humanity spread out there too. But now we're 400 years later, and the corporations have been keeping the peace and the trade back and forth between these colonies, all working by having Sentinels. The Sentinel Guard is based on America's Coast Guard. And, they do the same kind of things. They police the trade, they deal with smugglers, they have police powers, they have, they're involved in reward and stuff like that. But that's who they are. And what happens at the beginning of our story is a horrific catastrophe. And this is Sentinels, point of no return, if you're typing that into a search engine. And that's our podcast. And it takes place, and it tells the story of this catastrophe. And then the EarthGov's desperate decision to integrate the Sentinels force for the first time with these colonists from these different colonies that have been at each other's throats for generations. So they have to try to integrate. They have to try to rebuild the Sentinels with gene freaks, with mutts, as they call them. And of course, you've got all the purebred Terran racism and elitism that goes along with that. And it is an incredibly difficult show. And we came up with this, like I said, 4 years ago, and it started exploding around us. And the themes of our show is exactly what's going on in the streets right now around us.
Yeah.
Truly.
I don't know if Chris wants to talk about that a little bit.
Well, it the show is truly, it's just so mind blowing that all of this stuff is coming to pass. As an actor, Mike and I have talked about this in my own psyche. I was going through a rough time with all the things going on in the world and things going on in the U.S. And Abrams, it's the first time in my career where I've gotten the chance to play an ordinary guy in an extraordinary circumstance.
Abrams is the name of your character, correct?
Yes.
Major Joseph Abrams.
Major Joseph Abrams. And so it was so, I've had this great fortune to play these extraordinary characters.
Right.
But to play Abrams, I had to find this real guy in me and then decide, do I want to let him out?
Right.
And because the real me was so raw, and it is still raw, it was almost cathartic too. And God, I hope, Mike, this doesn't embarrass you. Some of the words that Mike wrote, you talk about salve coming at the right time for a wound. One of the epilogues, Mike and I had talked, and I was in a very bad state mentally and emotionally. And let me digress for a bit. Mike is not only one of the greatest writers I've ever met, he's also the most prolific. So
it's true.
As the Lord is my witness.
I can attest to that. He's far and away more productive. I'm usually trying to play catch up.
He had written this piece that so encapsulated exactly and captured what I was feeling. What I mean, it took so long for me to get through it without just and not even breaking as the character, just breaking about how true these words were and these feelings. And it was just such an honor to say those words, man. It was
the honor was mine.
I really hope the fans get a chance to hear these words, because it was hopefully it will provide some peace for some people.
And I think that that's something in general that, from what I've heard you guys describe and talk about this, that it offers, to go back to what we were talking about, sci-fi in general. What both of you found in sci-fi as kids, I think you're getting an opportunity, and I didn't plan to say this, it's perfectly what you both have just offered, that what you've now written and produced and performed with Sentinels offers hopefully to somebody else, some other young boys, young men and women who are growing up, that same hope or that same escape or that same, Mike, to your point, smart connection that you all had when you were kids.
Well, we stand on the backs of giants and do our best.
Truly.
The show, so the fans can understand, right now it's a podcast. It's not our intention to leave it a podcast. We would like to produce it as a series, either animated, or if we can get the support, as a live action series. Every actor who signed on to this did it after reading the script and called up and said, "Oh my God, I want to do this," because it's about everything that's going on. But it's also, don't worry, there's monsters and spaceships and space battles and lots of cool stuff.
I mean, it's exciting. I mean, to have these arcs and things, and just, we want to be able to share them. We really, really want the fans to be able to experience this.
Yeah. And where can they? So Mike and Chris, I'll have it also for sure as part in our comments. And when we get the end card for when this is on the Wyvern Gaming YouTube channel, I'll have it up there for sure. But just for right now, for the people that are watching live during SDCC at home, where can they find the podcast?
Well, the best place to go is to Chris's house. He's got a great stereo
Oh,
system.
cool.
And we're just going to put his address right here.
Yes. We're going to scroll it across the bottom.
But no toilet paper.
Yeah. That's the future, everybody. The best place to watch is to go to iTunes and search for, and this is the exact title of it, Sentinels, Point of No Return. Point of No Return is the first 12 episodes of the pilot. So it's Sentinels, Point of No Return. It's also on Spotify. Yep. Or you can come to our website, which is www.sentinelspodcast.com. But I really encourage you to either listen to it on Spotify or listen to it on iTunes, because those are the numbers that count. We're also on Podbean, but you could. So again, it's Sentinels, Point of No Return, and that's the podcast. There's 6 episodes up. So there's bonus materials. There's interviews with Chris.
Right.
There's interviews with the cast. There's a special prologue. There's artwork from the series. If you click on the links, you can go see the character arts. We give you hints of some of the stuff to come. I mean,
it's great. It's a whole world building that you've already started for people to really dive into.
And I think you'll enjoy it. So, or if you'd like more of that, you go to www.sentinelspodcast.com.
And Sentinels,
I'm sorry, it's
with
so
an
much
S.
typing.
With an
Sentinels.
S.
Yes, with an S.
Yep.
Or watch it on iTunes, and I'll just say it again. Sentinels, Point of No Return. It turns out that the iTunes search engine won't take you there without the colon.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. You gotta love those very specific little guys. I cannot thank you enough for being here. Obviously, we're excited. I cannot wait to get you both in front of the new Stargate RPG game that we've got, the D&D game. I think you both are going to enjoy it. Mike, we'll get you and your family a special quick start guide, because I think you guys would have a great time with that. I think that'd be really fun. And then Chris, we'll send you the quick start guide, because I know you're a huge D&D fan. But also, I want to see you as the RPG. I want to see you dressed up as one of the characters that aren't teal. So it'd be great. I want to see who you choose out of the pre-gen.
It's Samantha Carter. It'll be Samantha Carter.
Was there ever any doubt?
Because the whole thing is all brand new. It's called Stargate Phoenix. It's the whole thing.
That's awesome.
You get to pick your own characters. But guys, thank you so much for taking the time this weekend. I can't tell you how much we love having you and hearing the backstories of why you're sci-fi fans and what you're doing next. It's fantastic for sharing those stories and being with us.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right, guys. We'll see you soon.
All right. Take care.
Hello, I'm Wesley Walker.
I'm Samantha Lawyer.
And I'm Brad Ellis. We're all with Wyvern Gaming.
Thank you for helping us make a great game.
Brad, tell me a little bit about our living system that we're having.
Sure. So the plan is to launch it where the episodes are coming out over the course of a year. And as the episodes are going on, you're playing a character that is living in the series. So it's a living RPG series. Think of it as like a TV show that your character is a part of, living within that episode. And over a course of a year, we will have different storylines that we'll play through, and your actions and the actions of the other people who are playing the game will affect the outcome later in the season. So we're really excited to bring that to all the fans, and we think it's going to be really fun.
I've had a lot of fun with it so far, beta testing and everything. Sam, what's your favorite characters so far with our beta testing?
So far, I'm going to have to say it would be the Aturan medic. That's fun to play. It's fun to create a story with a new race. I also like playing the Jaffa scientist. I have a lot of fun with her, with making her more focused on the science aspects of everything versus basically what everybody else is doing. I have fun just taking her on tangents.
Yeah, it's a nice twist on the Jaffa, because the Jaffa are usually noted as soldiers and a rough people, but having a scientist as a Jaffa, that's a completely different aspect.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, one of the great things about where we were able to do the Phoenix site, being able to have this Phoenix site allows us to have all the different races beyond just humans. So that's been a real adder to the game, I think.
Mm-hmm. What got you started with Wyvern Gaming?
Oh, goodness. Well, at the time, it was my buddy Phil. He he woke up, he messaged me one day, and he said he's been up all night working on these games, and he says, I've got this great idea. We've got to do this thing. So he basically was the brainchild of a lot of the games that we have. And since then, we've just been rolling.
Pretty good. Yeah, I remember the day that I came over to visit at your house, and Sam and Phil were there, and we were all sitting around a fire, and y'all offered me the ability to join in on Wyvern Gaming, and I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
I remember the night before he messaged Brad, he woke me up in the middle of the night. He said, I got this idea. Not half asleep, I just told him, just write it down, talk to me in the morning. And little did I know he did.
Yeah, that was the thing that I told him too when he told me the idea. It was like, okay, great. Make a play test and we'll figure it out. And we'll try it. And because I always wanted to make sure that I wanted him to put some effort into it to make sure that he was serious about it.
Right.
Yes, yeah. He's always had ideas, and he never followed through on those ideas, and I was pleasantly surprised when he did. Yeah,
for sure. That first game was Cthulhu, a deck building game, which was, it's been our flagship product for a while, and his idea of having a role playing game was something that he's had for quite a while, and Stargate was a dream come true, and thankfully he learned about the fact that we got the license right before he passed, and we're doing this for you, Phil. Thanks,
buddy. So hey guys, we're just reaching out to you real quick here at Wyvern Gaming. We would like to ask some questions and have questions asked to us about the playtesting and where we're currently at with the game. We're trying to develop the best game that we can for you guys. So if you can, go on our website, ask questions. That way we can go on and answer these questions. We've had a lot of questions already. We've been able to address those questions. It's helped us tremendously in game development. The more questions that come in, hey, the better we can make a game for you guys that you're going to really, really, really enjoy.
Yeah, we'll create a entry in our forums. So if you go to stargaterpg.com and head over to the forums, into the general area, there'll be a forum post on there where you can post questions that we'll answer on camera and give you guys answers best we can.
Yeah, we'll try and respond as fast as we can with those questions. So yeah, that's stargaterpg.com.
Hey everybody who just watched a couple of videos. We are now live. We are still waiting for a couple of participants to join us here. So if you'll kind of stay with us, we're we'll talk about some Stargate RPG and what's coming up and what's in the works. But at the moment, yeah, we're waiting for a few other folks to join us. So there people will be filing in. They were in other sessions that have just ended, so they should be here in any minute. So
I'm here. Sorry.
Hey, Jenny.
Sorry.
Hey, Jenny.
No, it's okay.
Literally running from one to the next. It's like you'd think virtually that you wouldn't be out of breath.
I know.
Running from one virtual panel to the next, but yeah, I'm still running.
I know.
I took my garbage out this morning, and then I was out of breath afterwards. And I'm like, how?
I haven't gotten my Stargate background, so you'll have to bear with me. It's still just going to be it's like one of those things that's on the tick list to do, and it's like, oh my God, it's 2 a.m. I'm going to bed. So that has been the last thing, unfortunately, because I wanted to have the Stargate Phoenix background, but oh well. Such is life.
It's all good. Well, we'll do some quick introductions, I guess, while we're waiting for other folks to come in, and we'll introduce people as they come in. So, I'm Brad Ellis. I'm the CEO of Wyvern Gaming. Wyvern Gaming is a game design company, and we've been in the process of building the Stargate, the role-playing game. We've got several other games under our belt, which you can find in your local game store or online. We have a Cthulhu deck building game, which is a really fun game if you love the Cthulhu mythos. And then, of course, we've been working on this for the past couple of years. So, Wes, why don't you introduce yourself? I know you love doing that.
Oh, yeah. My highlight of my day. I'm Wes Walker. I do all sorts of things for Wyvern Gaming. CFO. I make just about anything and everything for Wyvern Gaming. And I also help with development, playtesting, so forth and so on. The jack of all trades. Yeah.
Yep.
That's my title almost.
Design, layout, writing, all.
Sure.
Yeah.
How about you, Sam?
Hi, I'm Samantha Lawyer. I am in charge of customer service at Wyvern Gaming. I'm also one of the co-owners. I basically do what they tell me to do, so that's my role.
No, that is not true. Come on.
She's more vital than she knows. A lot of her input from playtesting helps, as well as.
And if you get an email from customer service, that's probably Sam.
Yeah. And so also her input from customers helps us develop too. So she's part of development. She just doesn't think of herself that way.
I'm both drunk and a better hacker than I thought.
That was great.
Mac, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Mac. I'm the designer. I'm putting all the words in a paper to make the book go.
Awesome.
I'm the one that you can blame when you're not happy about firearms.
Okay, seriously, I know you guys have been introducing yourselves all weekend, but we're going to back up and do this a little differently.
Okay.
So, Brad, yeah, I know, just deal. So Brad and Wes are the founders and the co-partners, co-owners of Wyvern Gaming.
And so is Sam.
They are I'm sorry, Sam. I actually had I had a different introduction for you, so let me know if this works. And then what they are the brainchild behind bringing Stargate and the game to fruition. Sam is the muse. See, that's how I was going to do it. Behind, yeah, sorry guys, but that's how I was going to run this. And then
it's your show.
I don't know if that works for you guys, but if we can do it that way. And I think that everybody, all of you guys, Mac, Sam, Brad, Wes, and everybody else that's at Wyvern Gaming and working on this and as writers, you all are very lovely understated in your own bang your drum. And I would like to make sure that that is elevated appropriately, that it is not that Sam is customer service or does what everybody I know you guys were joking, but every single one of you has had individual inspiration and innovation to this game. And as Stargate diehard passionate fans, Mac, Sam, Brad, Wes, Lee, John, Steven, every single person, Linda, that have been writers, game designers, the founders of the project itself with Brad, Wes, and Sam, you've brought something to this that we talked about in the interview a little while ago that blew open the window to fans in a way that no other project really that I've worked on over the 20 years has involved them. We used to like to say that it was for the fans, by the fans, and we genuinely tried to do that on a lot of the projects. But that is actually what you've done.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a testament to what each one of you brings to this. And while I love the fact that you all have amazing humility in your introductions, I want to make sure that they are touted appropriately. What Mac has done with the game design is straddled two worlds that are very hard with D&D and Stargate TV series IP. We've seen it in other, which will remain nameless, D&D IPs that don't do a good job of that. And then Sam, with all of what you've brought with the passion and your, literally, I do think of it as a muse, what you've brought to this is to keep that fire alive in all of the creative ways. And again, you straddle two different ways. It's the technical and the creative. And then Brad and Wes with bringing it head all to say, okay, you know what? This is our company. We're all in this together with Sam, with everybody, but we're going to go ahead and put this on the line and go for it with the Stargate IP.
Yep.
That takes a lot of courage, I got to tell you. And I think you all have done an amazing job, and each of the individual writers and other game designers as well.
This game actually has a passion of all three of us. It's more of a labor of love beyond the fact that we're all Stargate fans. It's a labor of love and of one of the founding members who can't be with us any longer. It's a memorial for him.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And actually, you know, for people who didn't get a chance to see the original interview with Brad and Wes, if you guys could, Sam, if you want to talk a little bit about the co-founder that isn't with us any longer, that was a big supporter of this.
Yes. So this was actually, so Philip Lawyer was the mastermind behind everything that is Wyvern Gaming. It was his brain, it was his middle of the night idea, and it just grew to something beyond anything we could have imagined. And he always wanted to write an RPG, and we took his love of Stargate and his writing, and we proposed to do an RPG of Stargate. And the week, I believe it was the day we held his memorial, was the day we found out we got approval to do this.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Brad was about to get up and give the eulogy, and we got the email.
Yeah.
So it's a passion of love and remembrance that we do this correctly and in a way that he would have wanted it done.
And we've definitely memorialized him in the game. He is General PK Lawyer, who's in charge of the Phoenix site. So he'll live on in the books forever
like,
in the Stargate canon.
A connection here.
Yeah.
Yep.
That would be the reason why.
Yep.
I think that's I want to keep telling that story, and I didn't know the part about that right when Brad was getting up that you guys found out right then. I want to keep that story going for fans so they know how deeply you all are into this and committed to it. It's not just about the passion.
We are strongly committed to seeing this thing through and making it happen.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Which I know has been problems with some Stargate games in the past. So.
Not that those guys were committed. David and I have been through those.
Don't get me started. I worked on one.
I know. I think that there is a perfect storm that's happening, and I think that there are so many fans out there that understand that everybody's been committed to it. Everybody's been passionate about it, but you all have had a perfect moment here where the crossroads came together at the right time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Basically.
Even though Phil hasn't been able to participate in a physical way in the creation of this game, he has still participated in his own way.
Mm-hmm.
From a design perspective, he didn't have nothing when he left it. When he passed, there was what I would say the majority of the core rules had been updated, right? Like he hadn't gotten to the skills section yet, but he'd gone through and he'd removed magic and he'd changed some of the core terminology like GateMaster and things like that.
Yeah.
Mission commander at the time, but there was work done before I picked it up.
The funny thing is, before we ever got approval, he started working on it.
Oh yeah.
While it was still in a proposal stage. He
man,
done before we even started.
I love it.
Yeah, because I was like,
well,
if this doesn't get approved,
done.
if this doesn't get approved, you're going to have to throw this away. We're going to have to change it to, Mystic Portals or something. I don't know.
Right. I like Mystic Portals. That's another one of our cover bands.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I don't think David introduced himself, and he joined us.
Hi, everyone. My name is David Reed. I am I need like a title, guys. I need something. I'm the canon guru. So I'm a walking, talking Stargate encyclopedia and make sure
that's kind of what I call you.
Totally consistent.
Stargate encyclopedia. Your title.
You're our Stargate archaeologist.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm the
I like that.
The Stargate content. Yeah, that's true.
There you go.
I like that. I don't know. Have we ever called you that before?
No.
I like it.
There we go. We'll
get
get a business card. It'll be true.
All right.
Yep.
Once it's on a business card, no one can argue that that's your name.
That's right.
That's right.
Right.
I believe they have to refer to you by that name in court from there on out.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, and I think what I wanted to do for our wrap up, our time that we've got together here at the end, and I know Yael's going to join us in a minute as well, is that we've had this weekend. We've been at other cons. We've been doing obviously outreach and talking with fans, and I think Brad and Wes and Sam, a lot of what you guys have done to get fans in as players has been huge. But what I want to do in the wrap up here is to make sure that we've gone over a little bit of what we've talked about through the weekend if fans have missed, because this particular interview and AMA right now is going to be distributed and live on. And so I want to make sure that all of the things that people might have missed, let's do a wrap up and talk about the weekend, what we got to see. We got a lot of high points over the weekend, and then what's coming up for us, what we have coming up next weekend and through the rest of the fall. There's a lot going on.
Absolutely. So where do we start?
I know that, well, I do want to wait a little bit for Yael to get here, because that'll be something that we make sure to, put together as a package as well. But for the people that have been on and been asking some other questions, I think that there are some questions that were in the discussion last night, long after we got offline, and they were pretty intense discussions that I think we can cover a couple of the ideas and the deep dives on the themes. I think for Stargate, especially Stargate fans, talking about what you guys are writing, what everybody's been writing that we just talked about with some of those writers, that the exploration into the other galaxies between 6 and 7, SG1 season 6 and 7, it's not just that, it's also the opportunity for each of these fans to explore some of these deeper dive questions that come up that we've all been part of, which is what happens to certain aspects of certain subplots that weren't explored. Can we explore those? How have you guys set that up? And I think if we talk a little bit about those, then when Yael comes in, we can do the wrap up for the weekend.
Sure. Yeah. So just we have a whole chapter dedicated in the book that is just some canon background. It's building everything that's happened from season 1 to 6, basically, that type of information. And then also, setting the stage about what the Stargate Phoenix site is about and what it is. And then as far as like other background characters and races and things like that, we have a Life Forms chapter that's going to detail out those particular things. So there's certainly a lot of plot hooks, story hooks that are embedded inside the core rulebook that will be able to be used. But be honest, the best story hook that's out there is the Stargate SG-1 series. You just go watch the series and watch a particular episode and just ask yourself what happens next.
There's Stargate as headcanon the game.
Yeah. There's been plenty of just playtest sessions that we have done where Brad would sit there and say, hey, go watch this episode, and we're going to play here in an hour, but watch this episode right before we play. And I mean, that's just kind of how he created a lot of his homebrew playtests for us, is to just say, okay, I'm gonna watch this episode. This is a good episode for me to go ahead and write off of. And we just continued it from there. You're now an SG Phoenix team that has gone up to follow up on this planet after SG-1, and you've been sent for this reason to this planet.
Just goes to show how fertile the ground is.
Absolutely.
Stargate.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. David, do you have any particular episodes you think would be a good story hook for follow-ups?
Oh man, I mean, I like characters specifically. Mm-hmm. Like there's an episode in season 3 with New Ground where this archaeologist named Nyan goes back to Stargate Command, and we never see him again. Where did he go? He's out there somewhere. It's things like that you can just pick up the pieces and just carry forward.
Absolutely.
Right. He's not just out there managing a cold stone.
Right. He has a function. So
absolutely. And that's the great thing about a role-playing game and being a GM or a GateMaster in our case, is that you can explore all those things, and it's a completely open box. And because we have all this lore, it's back there with the Stargate SG-1. You just use it. You just pick up the show and go with it. Now, if you're looking for one of the cool things that Mac has developed, if there's happens to be a life form or something that maybe you want to create that to fill a certain aspect, there's rules in the book to actually create your own life forms. So if you need that 3-headed dragon or the whatever that you need in a particular adventure or episode, then you can create it right there with the rules that we provided. Welcome back, Jenny.
Now you're making me add
Thanks, sorry.
multiple heads to the list, because that's not on there.
Uh-oh.
It will be soon.
Now I have to go write something so you're not a liar. Thanks a lot.
I love
Job
backing
security.
Exactly.
Multi-head attack.
Exactly. That was perfect. One of the reasons I had to hop off is, unfortunately, we've been having this problem all weekend. Gael's internet outage happened again. And so there's an entire section of Los Angeles that is currently without the internet. So,
oh, no.
We won't mention which company.
Get away from Memphis, please.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want it pinging through the line right now. But it's not like we've been the only ones. It's been really interesting this weekend watching what kind of load bearing they can handle for all of the fans being online at the same time. So let's do this. What I'd love to do is have everybody talk about what we've been doing this weekend. I'd like each of you to take different aspects of it, and I'll go ahead and ping each of you for what I'd love for you to lead and talk about, and what the high points were. And then obviously we want to end on what do we have to look forward to and what's coming up, because there's quite a bit. We are obviously, with COVID, there were some pauses that had to happen with the campaign. But Brad, as you mentioned earlier in the weekend, I think in many ways it helped. I think it gave some time and some breathing room to things that you and Wes and Sam had wanted to focus on. And I think we'll talk a little bit about that too. So what I'd love to do is do a little bit of a redux of you and Wes and Sam. You sort of explained it just now, but what it is that you what motivated you, besides the waking up in the middle of the night that happened, which was amazing, and how every creative process should start, is why you've come with this game and why this IP in particular. You guys are all fans of the show and the series and the movie. So why did you feel that this one would be a good match with a D&D game, especially since this is what you guys do with your company for a living? What made you pick Stargate, and why do you think it can succeed with this group?
Who wants to take that?
I think that I think Stargate. So it has. Brad has mentioned this before, but basically, you never know what you're going to get on the other side of the gate. There's plenty of times that you might pass through it. You're going to have a highly advanced society. You might have. You pass through it and you get into an old west town, or you pass through it and you're looking at somebody or a culture that's just in the passing the Stone Age. I mean, it's you never know what you're going to get. And this makes for a great dynamic with the game, because it's just so versatile, especially with the role-playing game.
Yeah.
Something else with Stargate is its variety, and the foundation also that was laid. Stargate SG-1 and Atlantis and Universe, they laid such a great foundation for us to work on. I mean, really, there's little legwork that has to be done in a form of creation. Even though there's still a lot, it's not as much as there would be.
The world is already there, ready to be tapped.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just that's what's so great about all of the unanswered questions is, we get that opportunity to answer those questions, and from our own imagination, or from the standpoint of somebody sitting at their kitchen table that is a diehard fan. They become
and
the
that's
director.
something that exactly. You and Brad both brought this up, and Sam, I know you've used this phrase as well. It's the theater of the mind that you are able to, and I know I keep using this all weekend, that it allows a Stargate fan who has wanted to do this for 20 years or 10 years or 2 years, whenever they've discovered it. That's part of the reason the show succeeds, is that it allows you to place yourself in this position that the everyman could be walking through the gate and doing this. You might not be in the Air Force.
Dealing with those issues, those moral issues.
Exactly, humanities issues. And that's what Chris and Mike were talking about, that the best of science fiction brings that. And I love that Mike Disa had talked about this. And Sam, I think a lot of your passion for Stargate and for D&D reflects back on what Mike was saying, which is that the best of science fiction in Stargate gets to be explored in this D&D game for fans.
Yes, when I play role-playing games, my favorite part is actually role-playing the character. And with this huge fountain of knowledge that you've got with this IP, it's like I've got so much material that I can use to pull from to become this character. I don't have to make it up on the spot. I've got background, I've got history of the race, I've got everything I need to be able to role-play this character. And it brings the character to life in a way that D&D cannot, because you just don't have enough knowledge behind it.
And you can expand on it, which is, I know, something that you're very creative about. And that gets to be, again, it's that, I think it's funny, it's almost a theme, and I didn't mean it to be this way, but in talking with each of you over the past couple of weeks and preparing for SDCC and then doing the interviews, you are straddling both your creative and the creative self and the fan self and the writer, the technical. And for Sam and for everybody, that's what you get to do with this, is feed both of those parts of your soul, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Brad, what about you? Because I think that that's been something for you that you've talked a lot about this weekend, that bringing Stargate to D&D was merging two worlds that were your favorite worlds.
Sure. Yeah. So I like to, the way I like to role play is, well, actually my favorite part is building characters. So actually sitting down and doing them, I actually will, for fun, just create a character from level 1 to level 20
just to see what the progression is, write the backstory of that particular character, and do things like that. But then from a GateMaster perspective, because actually I like being the GateMaster a little bit more than actually being a player. One of the things I like to ask my players to do is to write backgrounds for their characters, so that
I love that.
Basically you just have them write a page at most, and they give it to you, and you're able to just basically, you can read through it, and then you can explore some of the background stuff that they have on their particular characters, and usually it ups the stakes in the storytelling, whatever you do, and then you just weave that in, and it really helps in bringing the level of fun to up.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's part of the storyteller that is the GateMaster, and what Sam was just saying is the depth of information that we all have as Stargate fans that we can bring to the table, that it gives you a chance as that storyteller to pull all those threads together, right? It becomes a better story to play and to tell as the GateMaster. And I think, Mac, so much of the game design and what you've worked on with this group, I don't know if everybody can tell, but obviously this whole group has a great sense of humor. And if there is one theme that you always hear from a fan that they love about Stargate, is bringing that humor to the table. And that's something that even in the simplest of pieces I've seen throughout the game design. And that comes from your love of Stargate and being able to combine those two.
It comes from my love of science fiction in general, not just Stargate, but it's certainly one of the things that Stargate has going for it is science fiction fans, particularly, we are a specific breed, and we frequently forget that the shows we love weren't always serious, right?
Right.
People forget that Star Trek has Q running around, and he's just a MacGuffinite for sometimes you want to put Patrick Stewart in tights because that's hilarious. And where do you do that? Exactly. And sometimes you've got to have O'Neill knocking some golf balls through the Stargate, right?
Yep.
The world, human beings don't take themselves seriously all the time. We can't. And the people in our universes can't either. And if you don't have a sense of humor when you're designing the rules, when you're writing the stories, when you're kind of trying to bring that world to life, it'll always feel just a little more hollow than the show did.
God, that's a great point.
What makes the characters in the show feel alive is that they feel like people. They laugh, they joke, they do silly things, they make mistakes. But then it's time to be serious when the mood is there, when the tension is high. They knuckle down too. They're the heroes. They're the protagonists.
I love that. And I think that, David, so much of what you've seen throughout the 20 years is that thread of humor and that humanity of, again, going back to what Chris and Mike talked about in the interview just before, is science fiction reflecting that is what makes it successful. To Mac's point, we need to see ourselves in these stories. And that's something that this game does for us, is now we get to actually put ourselves in these stories.
Right, absolutely. No, it's interesting to watch. What was so extraordinary, for me this past weekend was doing that playthrough that we did with the group.
Yeah.
And it just felt so real, like I was actually a part of that universe. I haven't done a lot of D&D. I've done some with Star Wars, with a group that wasn't really into it. But when you have a group of people who are really getting into it and are really invested in pulling off a circle of imagination and bringing this group to life for a couple of hours, and you're actually, for all intents and purposes, playing out an episode, and you're seeing how you fit into that reality and how you can help the group around you. Because it's not like we were mentioning the other day, it's not about, oh, it's my turn now it's my turn to show off. Now how can I help the group? It was such an invigorating experience, and something that I can't wait to do again. And I think they really hit it hard on the head.
You, with your experience, you played as a pre-generated iconic character. You've only experienced a portion of it. You wait until you create a character and you're invested in that character. That's you. That's your character, and you start progressing.
you start progressing that character in gameplay, it's enlightening.
Oh, it's gonna be amazing. And watching Elena's homebrew that she did. I think that was last night.
Yeah, we had two of hers. Yeah.
It was crazy. It was so much fun. And it was so much fun to talk with Bo and with a couple of her friends that had developed it with her. It was so much fun to see the difference between that game, our game, and then obviously Sam, Brad, Wes, and Mac, the ones that you've told me about that you've done, right? Because I haven't seen some of the games that you guys have done.
Yeah.
And I want to see those. I want to get those up as well, because I think what really struck me in our conversations post games, and I think Wes, you and Brad were talking about it in the AMA we just had, or Sam, sorry, I can't remember who brought this up, about that it isn't just, Mac, it might have been you, it isn't just in D&D so often that one person pulls ahead or gets a lot of the control or the gameplay, that the beauty of this, that how you all have written it and developed it, is that you're all within enough points of each other in your skill sets and actions that you can take, that at any given moment, someone else could come in and then it's together as a team, which reflects Stargate. I mean, it's kind of amazing. I mean, I'm like David. I've dabbled in D&D. I think the last time I really did a full game, I was in high school. And a lot of the IP D&D that I've played over the years was pretty superficial, because it would be a project I was working on and I wanted to see what somebody was developing as a game. And it's been really, I got to be honest, as great as some of those are, they've been disappointing for me, because I didn't ever feel like I got to decide what was going to happen next, really, truly, which is what D&D is. That's half the fun, is that ability to develop that story. And you guys have done this in a way that I didn't know was not normal to D&D, or at least to 5th edition anyway.
Yeah.
And I just learned that in the interview that you guys just did. So if you guys could talk about, as the four of you, as the owners and game designers of this, can you talk a little bit about that why it's different? Because Stargate fans aren't going to know the difference.
I think that one of the coolest things that Mac contributed to the development of the whole thing, I don't know, I think it was your idea. I can't remember actually, but it was
we're making it so.
Yeah, we're making it so.
Right now.
Was the whole idea?
Clearly, it was mine.
Clearly, the whole idea of running the game from a GateMaster perspective, from an episode, saying that you're running it like a TV show. So you're running a series over a season that's broken down into 13 episodes. Because that's kind of the what we've put together. Where each of your episodes is basically a play session, right? And working those through, and if you do it from that mindset, and then as a player, you can go so far. And I love one of the things that Mac likes to do in his game sessions. Maybe I should just let Mac talk about this. Is he has his players cast his players like the actor, like that would actually play them, which is really cool, because
which is fun.
Because then you can actually imagine, like really imagine that person playing that role.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people have been played by Sam Jackson. I think that man makes a lot of movies. He also shows up in a lot more role-playing games, and I think he's getting paid for it.
Maybe we should reach out to him, David. We should talk to him. And Matt, I think David and I definitely want to play one of your games, because the thing is that I can't see, we would have so much fun with that. And I think that approach is, well, and I didn't know that it was different, but I only came into this project last June. So, it's been a year. Yay!
Hey, all right.
Cool. I think one of the things that struck David and I, having worked in this forever on the studio side, is that it felt seamless. The fact that you all said that this was not necessarily how a D&D game would normally be written, just so you know, from our point of view, we came into this and we're like, oh yeah, we recognize this. This makes total sense. And that's a testament to how you've built the infrastructure, Sam, how all of you took what that idea in the middle of the night was and you've built it. That was a foundation that you guys built. And then the writers came in and fleshed that out. I can't tell you how often that doesn't happen with IPs.
one of the primary rules of D&D is do not split the party.
Oh yeah.
And
we talked about that this weekend a lot.
We've talked about that a lot.
I think it's amazing.
So that's when you look at the aspect of what we've done is and a tribute to the writers on this, to our episode writers.
Yeah.
For being able to write a mission or write an adventure or episode where the team can each individual person of the team can go perform the task that they feel comfortable with. You can have your scientists do research while the combat heavy team is doing the combat, and it's all in there together. It's not, well, I'm just going to wait my turn. And I'm really not going to be good at this because my character's not good at combat. So this encounter is not for me, but I'll just wait until I can shine. No, you have that ability to shine all the time with the way that we've tried to structure our episodes.
I think it's when you remind the characters that they have headsets and actually they can talk to each other.
Internal
they've got radios.
Right.
That's when it like clicks for them. They're like, oh yeah.
You had to remind me a couple of times of that.
A simple piece of technology like a headset, a TACCOM, it's a simple piece of technology that sets apart like D&D, because you don't have that in D&D. You can't write in a D&D adventure that everybody can talk to each other and be at different parts of this planet. I mean, but you can in our situation. So
well, and I do want to ask you from a Stargate fan point of view that maybe doesn't do D&D, why is that a difference with the splitting the team? Because you all have really, not just you all, but all the writers talked about it, and then all the GateMasters talked about it as well. Why is that such a difference? Is it this edition? Is it D&D in general? But why has that been something that you wouldn't do in regular D&D play?
What's so taboo about it?
Yeah.
Well, I can answer that one. In Dungeons and Dragons, it's taboo for a very good reason. The mechanics of D&D are designed to represent a group of heroes like from Lord of the Rings or Arthurian legend working together to defeat a bigger bad.
Okay.
And it's always the 4, 5, maybe 6 of them against this, at the end of the adventure, against that cosmic problem, against that bad king, against those bandits in the woods, whatever it is, it's the party against. But with Stargate, it's not that. It's humanity against. It's the best of us. It's us going out there. It's us trying to make a better universe. It's not just trying to stop an evil. It's trying to build a better tomorrow. And Dungeons and Dragons is built from a very adventure-focused, traditional view where if you split the party, you're splitting the party's power level. And the way the GM actually designs the fights, actually builds the encounters, the traps and the monster that's in that room and that sort of thing, it is probably certain death if you meet the dragon and your cleric is 3 rooms away.
Right.
That guy isn't able to run in and cast protection from fire. If you surprise walk into a room, there's a dragon, suddenly you've just lost players and now the whole story gets derailed. So it became taboo out of necessity. With Stargate, because it's representing a TV show, it's not to say scenes don't get lethal. It's not to say people aren't in danger, but it's not as dangerous or lethal as D&D, and it's not supposed to be.
The characters have plot armor.
And not yet. I mean, some of it's plot armor, but also a lot of it is the things that challenge members of the Stargate aren't those bandits in the woods, although that does happen on a mission. What challenges the people of Stargate is questions like, what's the proper way for us to use our scientific advantage to help these people without destroying their culture?
Or even going even further, should we use our technological advantage?
And those are questions that we as human beings have to answer in real time, in real life, that just don't get answered by a gun.
Yeah, and let's talk about that because we did cover that this weekend, and I think for both D&D and Stargate fans that are watching now or later, that's a really key part of the game, is that it's not just about combat skills, although those are really fun, as we saw with many of the games that were played this weekend.
Obviously, they're a military organization. Gunfights are going to happen. I'm not saying the game has no combat.
And there's some fun, we've got some crossbows. We've got obviously a lot of really fun, as you would see, staff weapons and zap guns. So there's all of that. But Stargate wasn't just about that. It was about the exploration, the cultural approach, the trying to understand who this particular culture was that you just encountered through the gate. And I would love for you guys to talk a little bit more about how you've developed that with the writers so that you can play that out, that it is a great combination of both. And it depends on who your group has decided to use as their characters, obviously, what that mix is. You don't want all Unuses, as we've joked this weekend a lot about. I mean, it could be interesting.
And I would run one heck of an all Unos.
The Unos Elite. That's what we would.
We should do that and get a patch that's an Unos Elite troops. You know that
there are Unos planets. It's not beyond the realm of possibility.
Yeah,
I would absolutely do a squad of Unos that get dropped onto a planet where they know there's something crazy and deadly.
I think it'd be hilarious.
All we know is there's an elephant on that planet that breathes fire out of its snout, and we want you to bring it back alive or dead so we can study it. You're the gang that goes. I can write that.
That would be. I just like the elephant that blows fire out of its snout. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Max adventures are a little out there.
Yeah.
Oh, this from a universe with time travel.
Oh, come on. I mean, seriously. And the monsters of the week that we went with, come on. Mac, I got to play some of your games for sure. This is right up my alley.
I feel like dropping a little nugget here when you mentioned time travel. Just a little nugget to see who's watching.
You probably should.
So, if you have played or have participated in some of Wyvern Gaming's previous products, our Cthulhu, a deck building game. Both we have Cthulhu, a deck building game, and Cthulhu, the Horror in Dunwich. There's characters in there. You play investigators, and one of the investigators you play is a time traveler. He's got a very striking resemblance to General PK Lawyer.
I didn't know that.
We also have another game called Sojourn, where you absolutely play a time traveler, and you're traveling through history trying to get home, but your time machine broke, and you're trying to gather resources. You're trying to find the pieces of your missing time machine with only the resources that you have at your disposal. So it's actually a solitary game. You play single player, and you're trying to travel home to your home planet or your home time.
And that time traveler has a resemblance as well
to the general.
It's funny you mentioned that, because one of the I've always run my games like it was a TV show, right? Like, this isn't something new for me. It just really fits with Stargate. And it's funny you mentioned that, because one of the campaigns I looked.
Oh, we lost that.
He froze up on us.
He is in California.
There he goes.
Yeah, you're back.
No audio.
No audio. He's.
Am I back?
Oh,
Yes,
How about now?
Yep.
All right. Must be that internet we were talking about. So one of the campaigns I leaned on heavily when I was looking at my notes and stuff for the design process for this was a campaign in which the players had a broken time machine that was instead taking them to random planets throughout the galaxy. So it was basically Stargate.
Yeah.
They were just accidentally jumping through space and not time.
Yeah. So turns out that Phil was very vain, and he liked to put himself in his own games quite often.
That is not a Phil. That is an all of us. But I can show you pictures from Dark Heresy where it's like, that's Mac. That's clearly Mac in power armor.
So I would love to see an adventure sometime in the future where we explore the General's time traveling past. So that little nugget's out there now.
I love it. I think it's fun to have all those connections. Well, and Sam, I would love to talk a little bit about the role playing that we can do with Stargate, which for a lot of Stargate fans is going to be a huge part of this. Mm-hmm. That for them to be able to put themselves into it and to finally get to kind of bust out that creativity, a lot of the creative process that you do is embedded in this.
Mm-hmm. Because everybody has said, if I was there, I would have done this, or imagine themselves Stargate and imagined how they would have handled the situation. Well, now you get the chance to put yourself in the game. You know, you get to make those critical decisions, and the game depends on how you and your team critical think, basically. And that's something that we wanted to make sure that we took great pains to keep, you know, to keep intact, that we wanted to make sure that it became something that you can role play. It's not just number crunching. It's not just throwing the dice. It's you have to make yourself part of the story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like it goes into the R&D development for like the mechanic that Mac has put in.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just rolling the dice. It's how creative can you get with creating a solution to this problem mechanically.
Yeah. And it's marrying those two worlds. I know we keep coming back to this, but this is the message more than anything that I want to get across from this weekend, is that whether you're a Stargate fan, a D&D fan, or a combination of those two, what you all have done is married the worlds in a way that allows you to explore Stargate via a 5th edition D&D that you really don't get a chance to do anywhere else. And it's, as a fan, it doesn't matter how you approach it. I'm not cosplayer. I love role playing though. So it's fun for that kind of exploration, but you could just be somebody who adores Stargate and wants to explore a new story, or you're really into D&D and don't know about Stargate. This would be a great way to get exposed to it. So
I've got a great example.
Amazing.
I got a great example of something we did that was one of the questions we kept getting was about classless character builds. So if you think of the Stargate universe, you have your Daniel Jackson, who came in as his archaeologist, basically, right? He didn't know at the very start. He didn't know how to hold a gun hardly, but by season 6 or so, he was ascended, but somewhere along those lines, he
an example, but yeah.
He was very proficient with a gun, right? So that scientist basically had done some cross training into different elements from different classes, so to speak, where in the traditional D&D 5th edition, typically what you do is you start as a class and you stay that class basically, and you just progress that class all the way up to 20th level. So there was a lot of questions at first about why did we choose 5th edition, because it's not classless, which makes a lot of sense. And we were like, it does make a lot of sense, and you know what, we're going to fix it. So what we did is we made it so that levels 1 through 5, you are that initial class, but after post 5, as you gain mission points, you can spend those mission points to gain feats in any class basically you want. So you can make that character that has that diverse background, that has that soldier background who becomes a medic, or that scientist who becomes a soldier, those kinds of things. So I think that's one of the really cool things that we've added to this, that brings in that cross between your D&D 5th edition folks who want to play sci-fi that haven't been able to really get the right feel to date. And I think that this is one of the things that's going to really do it. And it also...
and that's expansion that you... expansion is not the right word, but that's more from my end, the production side. It's the wrong word for D&D. But that's what you all creatively have done there. And I think that's important that we reemphasize that what you've done is very innovative. It's innovative from a Stargate standpoint. It's innovative from a D&D standpoint. And again, I go back to, I think that's why this is that perfect storm of appealing to a broad audience of sci-fi, Stargate fans, D&D fans, which you don't necessarily always get with that kind of a combination when you try to do an IP within a D&D game or any game, frankly.
Yeah,
whether it's a video game or a tabletop game.
Yeah, not to toot our own horn, but basically, this is
that's what we're here for. So please go ahead.
This is what you get as a culmination of people that we're not just a company trying to create a game or a gaming company that's trying to put out a product. We are gamers that are Stargate fans. So, you know, that's how we're able to create what we've created, is because
we've got the game that we want to play, that we enjoy playing.
Right.
Right. That's a perfect point, because it is obviously, from what you all have talked about, you're already playing this. You're leading games.
Absolutely.
You're being GateMasters. You're playing.
We're those kids on the street that were like, we don't like the games we do like the games that other people play, but we don't like them played the way that we want to play them. So we're going to go ahead and
we're going to make our own.
We're going to make our own, and everybody's going to love it.
I'm running a playtest an hour from now.
It's so perfect. I love this. And David, something that you and I have seen throughout the years that I think is, again, it's a little bit different about this group. It's that perfect storm, is that what Wes just said, I think, is spot on. It's gamers who have created a Stargate game. And that gamers who have created a Stargate game that are Stargate fans, that combination does something that's just that little extra special sauce, I think, from what you and I have seen over the years.
Yeah, they've done it in the right order. And, it's so refreshing to see, not to say that it hasn't been done the same, right in the past, although it just hasn't been published, in many of these cases, but it feels authentic to what it is. And it's not, D&D with Stargate, pasted on the top.
Yes.
Yeah.
We took great pains to make sure that did not happen. We didn't want a Stargate skin over a D&D game.
Yeah. And that's, I think, the difference, honestly. You started from scratch, as we talked about a little bit earlier. You literally built this from the bottom of the foundation up, and it's been very careful. And it's been very much tapping into this fan base as well. Not just your own fandom that you guys were, but tapping into the fan base to check yourselves and say, hey, is this really what we should be doing? Is this the right direction?
One of the things I was frankly very surprised about when I started getting into the design of it, because before, when I'd run Stargate style games, I'd do other systems, and I hadn't really worked a lot with 5th Ed. But when I really sat down and got under the hood of the engine that is 5th edition, I quickly found that you didn't need to redesign the way it ran. You just needed to shift the math a little bit over here to get it a little less lethal in places you wanted it less lethal. And you just needed to kind of create a few things for like science where, you don't have a magic system. The engine itself really can take quite a bit of change, right?
That's what you guys did with Moxie and Eureka Points. I mean, both of those are, I think, key examples of slightly shifting the direction of what you can do and how you kept the points without having combat be, 10, 15 points more than culture or wisdom or insight, or, I know we all use initiative, but I think that that's a key part of how you did this design and then kept it within the story. Because remember, a lot of this is that you want people to build on this story that you've already created. Maybe they're just coming into D&D. They need the structure of an existing story that you guys have written. Sam, some of the stuff that we talked about before that you as a character love to play, having that existing, right, all of that existing Bible helps a Stargate fan get into it. And how you've designed the game allows them to do that easily without feeling overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, so Moxie, going a little bit about Moxie, there's plenty of times in a D&D game or a lot of role-playing games that the table is run by personalities. You've got a person at the table that they're very strong personality, and when you're in a investigation encounter or a negotiation encounter, you've got that one person, even though they're the soldier, they're the uber character soldier that always wins in combat because that's the way their character was created, and they have a low intel and a low wisdom and low charisma, but yet they still shine in a negotiation. That kind of like, it just didn't sound right. And it's because that person has a strong personality. They're the first one to answer a question, the first one to talk at the table. Well, the purpose for Moxie is to be an initiative in a negotiation or a convince encounter, something like that. Because if you're a diplomat, then you should have a higher score. You should have that ability to talk first at the table, because you see it all the time where the meek people, they're just hanging back, but everybody should have a turn to talk. Everybody should have a turn in a negotiation encounter. So roll Moxie. So we're going to see who's got the highest Moxie, and we're going to go in that order. So this guy over here with the Uber soldier that's great in combat. Yeah, well, you rolled a soldier. In our game, you rolled a soldier, and you may not have as high of a Moxie as that diplomat that is the mousy little girl that never talks. So now she gets her turn. She doesn't feel like this person sitting in the corner at the table. So it kind of again allows the people at the table to shine better with their character.
But it's never just one player, right? Like that soldier suddenly finds himself in a place where he can help the group if he assists that Moxie person, right? So down that guard, there's the soldier just mad dogging him right behind, right? Like he gets to help. He's part of the scene. But you know, the spotlight hits her for just a minute, he gets splashed into it, then you're moving on.
And it's that team. It's the team feel again that you want to bring into a Stargate story. You have to. It's got to be. It doesn't matter what you or who you are. That's what you guys have allowed, is that you set that up. So the team is going to happen no matter what, and that's perfect because that's what you want to do. You want to reflect that feeling from Stargate that was written that way. It was purposely written that way, and that was a conscious decision for 20 years that they did that. So you don't want to avoid that. And what you've allowed for that to happen is that it doesn't matter who your group is that you're playing with, you're all going to get to be a part. You're all going to get to be, at some point in the game, you will be important to what's going on. And I think that's crucial. Hey, so we've only got about 10 more minutes. And what I do want to do is have you guys talk a little bit about what's coming up, because there's a lot. We have a lot coming up. This is really just a soft launch into the rest of the fall of 2020. And Absolutely. I know that with COVID and everything that's going on, it's exciting what you guys are going to be able to do next. So Brad and Wes and Sam, if you could talk a little bit about what's happening this fall, that would be great.
Sure.
I'll let Brad take that.
So next weekend is Gen Con Online. So Gen Con is not happening just like San Diego Comic-Con didn't happen physically. It's happening online. So we are actually releasing next weekend we're launching our living campaign. So the Stargate Phoenix, it's a living RPG series, which it's going to be 13 episodes that we publish over the next course of a year, and the first 3 that we're releasing are this coming weekend. So there are episodes that there are game sessions that are going to be ran at Gen Con Online. Those are sold out. They sold out within 2 hours, which is amazing.
I'm sorry for people that didn't get it.
I know. So
good sign.
It's a good sign. So, but
especially for the amount of slots that we had. So.
Oh yeah, it was hundreds of slots. So so what's going to happen is afterwards, after Gen Con, and also we're also going to have some Q&A sessions at Gen Con Online, and we'll have some gameplay that we broadcast there as well. So look for those on the schedule, and those are free to sign up for, and those are still available. So if you just go to gencon.com, you can find those particular events if you search for Stargate or Wyvern Gaming. So after Gen Con, the plan is to release those first three episodes, and you as a GateMaster, a GM, you can go to our website, stargatetherpg.com, and you'll be able to obtain them from there. And not only that, but our living campaign, we have the ability to track characters and your actions as you go through the stories. This was really important to us in our living campaign. There's been living campaigns in the past where you would participate in a particular living campaign and your actions didn't seem to really matter very much. So when we did this living series, we wanted to make sure that it does matter. So we built out a bit of our website at stargatetherpg.com. I'm going to keep saying it, drill it in people's heads, so that you can create your character on the website, and you basically joined episode runs that are created by the GateMasters, and the GateMasters have the opportunity to report what happened. So there's major plot points that happen within each episodes, and as the characters that are playing that, what you do gets reported, and then after a period of time, we're going to take those results, and the majority of what happened becomes canon for Stargate Phoenix. So those are going to be the things that happen as the series progresses. And if something changes, something major happens that we were not necessarily expecting, then the stories of the episodes to come for the remaining of the year will change accordingly. So it's really exciting.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's so cool because it makes it that everybody gets to be part of a true season and gets to then change it as if it's real. Which
Yeah,
I
you
love.
get to play as a character in a TV series, basically.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah. So then after that, we will be launching a Kickstarter.
Yep.
It will be in the fourth quarter of 2020. And then based on basically how big that gets, we'll have some stretch goals and things that depending on how big it gets, we'll be able to obtain some additional things that could come out. Could be additional physical items like GM screens and tokens and stuff like that we'll reveal when that comes time.
God, we have big plans.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And then we're going to produce the item and produce the core rule book, which is the main thing that will be part of the Kickstarter, and that will be on shelves early 2021 is the target.
Yep. And in the fall and winter, the other plan is for us to be part of some additional events that are going to be virtual. So we don't have those set in stone yet, so we don't want to announce, but we will make sure to announce on the forums and in Discord as soon as we can and on social channels that we will be certainly part of some more virtual events that are going to be happening.
Yeah, and I wanted to assure the people that are like in Australia specifically, we're going to have some events that will be in your time zone. So.
Right. And in the UK too. So
yes,
we've got a couple. We're working with some partners that Stargate's been partners with for years. So that'll be really great. And then we've got UK, Germany, Australia, and Canada. Hopefully we'll be able to tie into those, which would be great.
Yep,
I love
absolutely.
it. And then I think we want to do a giveaway if we can.
Yeah.
Is that possible? I'd love to do that. I know we don't have a whole lot of people that are live with us, but if you're in Discord in our SDCC Discord channel, we can't do it off the Wyvern Gaming, but if you're in our SDCC Discord channel right now, I'll ask a really quick trivia question, and the first person to ask it, Brad and Wes, I feel like I'm on The Price is Right. Tell them what they get.
We'll give that particular person the first episode of our Living campaign. So it'll be
very cool.
Yep. So you get early access to that.
I just got it 2 weeks ago, so that's really cool. I love it. All right, well, so I'm going to ask this courtesy of David. I'm sure that our group that's in there, but what we want to know is keeping it within the current season 6 to season 7 slot that we've developed this world. Which Toker is discovered that's held in captivity by the Pangarans in season 6 Cure?
Are you looking for the name or are you looking for just something general?
Well, I mean, if I was really going to
looking for the name, okay, all right.
I'm looking for the name.
I wanted to specify.
I would accurate answer wins. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I would love it. And if you don't have access to the SDCC Discord, I think Brad or Wes, if you could post that in the Wyvern Gaming Discord so they can link over to that, that would be great. And Mary at SDCC, I love you, but I don't think that you qualify for this. We need someone who isn't connected. I know. I love her. I've got another thing for them, because one thing I do want to do while we're waiting to see who can answer that is to do a huge shout out to Ray Rappaport and Mary Strahan over at SDCC. They are huge Stargate fans. They are huge supporters of Stargate, and they were the ones that basically were able to set up this channel for Wyvern Gaming, and were just amazing the whole way through with our proposal. There wasn't even a question. I just threw it out as hey, I think that this would be a great idea, and they immediately latched onto it. So
So
much thanks and respect to them.
We did get some answers over here on the Wyvern Gaming Discord, and it should have been in the. I'm just gonna copy their names and paste.
Okay, cool.
Into this channel.
Oh, you know what? Jim the Evo just asked us, and this could be true, that they might have stopped permissions.
Oh, okay.
Because we're within 5 minutes.
Well, that's why I'll just paste it. I'll just paste it on my end.
We will absolutely give you guys the thumbs up, because that was good.
We'll do this. Amazing. We'll do one for the first who posted on the Wyvern Gaming, and one that does it on the first on the other one.
Oh,
well,
nice.
It's too late now.
Oh, it's too late now?
Yes, too late. We posted the answer.
All right. Well, there you go.
Also, I
question really easily.
I think that's John or Steven too. So it's like, I think this is pretty cool. I think we can do this.
We announced and ran this perfectly, no questions. Without a hitch.
I think we can give both of them.
I believe so too.
Yep.
Yeah, don't worry about it. So for both of our guys that were watching and did that, I think that this is just not a problem. We can help you both out, because that was great answers. And I think as we're wrapping this up, I'd like to say thank you so much to everybody at Wyvern Gaming: Brad Ellis, Wesley Walker, Mac Martin, Sam Lawyer. Thank you to all of the writers that came and were part of this for the whole weekend: John and Stephen and Linda and Lee and Steffi, and all of our GateMasters that were here, which were Elena and obviously everybody here, and Jared and Linda and Lee, and who am I missing? Somebody else, obviously the writers.
All of the unsung heroes of our other writers. I definitely want to do a shout out on that.
Well, you know what? And
our Discord group, that those unsung heroes too, that we ask questions and like they respond, and boom, it becomes it goes in our book. I mean, it's awesome. Yeah.
Well, and we've got Stephen. I mean, literally the people that we were able to have this weekend that participated was amazing. It was far more than I thought we would be able to get, and I can't thank everybody enough that came and did the interviews and bore with us when we had some internet issues across the board. And obviously all the Stargate fans and D&D fans that have been looking forward to this, can't thank you enough. We cannot wait to bring you the rest of the materials and all of the great launch that's going to happen over the next 6 months.
If I could leave you
guys to take us out, the three of you, please.
Yeah. So if I could leave you with one thing. So if you look at I'm going to get kind of nerdy here. If you look at the Venn diagram of Stargate fans and 5th edition D&D players, right? There's a huge overlap of those players, right? Those people.
Yeah.
I am not worried about getting the people in the middle of that Venn diagram. But if you're on either side of that, either as a D&D player who's never seen Stargate or played with it, I encourage you, go watch some SG1. You're going to fall in love with it, and you're going to love this system. But if you're
watch
also
them all, Atlantis, because Atlantis ties in a different crowd too.
Once you start SG1, you'll watch it also. But also if you're a Stargate fan who's never played D&D, you're going to love this system. It's going to be right up your alley. I encourage you to give it a chance and try it out, because I think you're going to love it.
Well, I can't thank all of you enough. Brad Ellis, Wesley Walker, Sam Lawyer, David Reed, Mac Martin, everybody that was a participant and a audience member and a game player this weekend. Thank you so much, SDCC at Home and Wyvern Gaming. We are out for another year. We hope to see you in person in 2021. Everybody, please stay safe, wear a mask, keep healthy, play D&D, love Stargate.
Yep.
Bye, guys.
Well,
bye. See y'all at Gen Con.